Welcome all to the Tuesday, February 28th meeting of the Board of Education. Can we all please rise for the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we're going to do a roll call.
Trustee McOwen,
Present.
Trustee White,
Present.
Trustee Fearon, Trustee McDowell, Trustee Miller,
Here.
Trustee Nying, Trustee Jaros,
Here.
Trustee Saunders, Trustee Zamore.
Present.
Quorum is present, sir.
Thank you. All right. Start with communications to the public. Yep. Right.
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for coming tonight. Speakers are encouraged to speak at each meeting of the Mount Vernon Board of Education. Speakers must register in advance no later than 4 p.m. the date of the meeting by contacting myself, the district clerk, in person at 165 North Columbus Avenue, Mount Vernon, or via phone at 914-665-5235, or via email at rmccormick@mtvernoncsd.org. The board welcomes all The board welcomes all respectful comment, whether praise or criticism. However, identifying and criticizing a specific student, parent, teacher, administrator, or other Mount Vernon education official or employee is strictly prohibited. Such complaints must be presented and addressed through the proper administrative channels. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to speak, with up to 1 additional minute that may be used for the speaker to summarize and conclude their remarks. If appropriate, board trustees and/or the superintendent may immediately respond to those speakers' remarks. Our first speaker this evening is Bishop C. Nathan Edwards.
Years, the Board of the United Black Clergy have tried to engage in the advancement of our children's education. And we have not been here because we are very pleased by some of the progress that this current board have made since under the leadership of our Superintendent Hamilton. He has, and you have, began a new era of lifting the quality of education. Although we have had some tremendous gains, there's much more gains that need to be done within our district. And that being said, I also want to thank Mrs. Bennett Conroy and all of the people who worked so wonderful in the creation of this new University Pre-K 3-year-old program that is in partnership with Friendship for Tots, a not-for-profit organization that has been trying over the past 7 years to train and develop people, children, and engage parents in the educational progress of our community. We have some parents who have come to ask this board tonight. There's a tab. We ask this board to please don't hinder the progress that is occurring, and we invite the board members. Our doors are open to come to the Friendship for Tots facility, 261 East Lincoln Avenue, and to see the magnificent work that this board have done with Dr. White and Dr. Conroy, and all of them, and even Dr. Silvers, even Mr. Silvers. He may be controversial, but he have done a great job. And he's tight with the money. He's really tight. And even you, Mr. President, we need your support. And let's not go back to the days where we will be contentious. Let's not go back to the days where we hold grudges. Let the past be the past. We see progress. We see y'all moving in the right direction, and we ask, let's forge ahead. And I ask you to do that, please, because the community is really pleased and satisfied with at least 95% of the things that you are doing and implementing in our community. So please, let's not go back to the past of dividing our community. It's one Mount Vernon, not the north side, it's not the south side, it's one Mount Vernon united together to do the things that will advance our children. And thank you, and I won't be for the rest of the meeting. I got other things to do, but I just want to come here and stop by and say thank you for being the board that you are and continue the work that you've done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Bishop Edwards, I have actually personally and thank you for the tour that I've had of your facility. And I commended you then, and I will commend you now for having a facility that can accommodate the children of this new pre-K3 initiative that we have for the district. And unfortunately, I understand that at some point you will run out of room. So we're going to have to put additional children somewhere else. But for now, I appreciate it, and I appreciate the fact that you're willing to join us in this venture, and I believe our board members pretty much feel the same. So thank you for coming to the board. And I wonder what that 5% is. You know, I always wonder where they say 4 out of 5 dentists recommend you brush your teeth. I always wonder what the one dentist was thinking. So, you know, we'll find out. Well, thank you so much again. All right, next speaker.
Ms. Delia Farquharson.
Good evening. For the record, I called on 2/25 at 2:13 p.m. and I called again on 2/27 at 8:33 a.m. In 2014, President Obama issued a challenge to cities, towns, counties, tribes across this country to become MBK communities. This challenge represents a call to action for all members of our community, and mayors in particular, as they often sit at the intersection of the vital forces and structural components necessary to enact sustainable change through policy, programs, and partnerships. That, which I just read, is from the MBK Online. Enter the school district, which declared its partnership on April 28 when our city of Mount Vernon accepted the challenge. For partnerships to be successful, they must have some essential elements, including commitment and ownership, trust, and good communication. MBK Mount Vernon, my brother's keeper Mount Vernon, has worked to model good communication. We are consistent about requesting opportunities to meet with the school district, with the mayor's office, and with our youth. While it has not always been convenient or comfortable to foster these meetings, they are essential for the integrity of the program. My Brother's Keeper Mount Vernon my Brother's Keeper Youth Talk was created as an opportunity to listen to our youth. The premise is that they speak and we, the adults, listen for solutions. There are no dictates or rules around what can be discussed. At the New York State Symposium that we recently attended 2 weeks ago, Mrs. Wynn and I, Dr. Bennett Conroy, and Ms. McKitty Bromley, a youth forum was conducted where the youth were critical of their individual districts. Yes, they were. And one student, Donald, who I believe was from the Albany School District, a district that's doing well, spoke about his districts doing a better job of letting students know what's available to them in the community, what's available to them in their school district. Another student, Naeem, shared that he wished his teachers cared more and made more effort to have connections with the students in his school. The superintendent from these schools were in attendance, and they were in attendance at the symposium and at the youth forum. These students were celebrated for their candor and conduct. They were lauded for their honesty, and to my knowledge, no one regarded the students sharing their feelings as a gripe. Ignoring a problem or not talking about a problem does not eliminate the problem or solve the problem. Talking about situations is communication. Communication fosters partnerships, and partnerships solve problems. As a community member here, being involved in the MBK initiative is not optional for me. I am concerned about the state of affairs in this, my beloved city. And so therefore, I commit to be a part of the solution. I will let you know that today, as part of my work, I was in court on 3 cases. 2 of those people involved in the case was past students of Mount Vernon High School, not doing so well in their lives. And then I visited a student at Woodfield Cottage in Valhalla, not doing so well in life. I own a home here, and as do many members of the MBK group. We want things to be better. At the end of a work day, or at the end of a career, God willing, we will still be here in Mount Vernon. We do not choose the option of retiring or moving to another community. Our involvement is therefore personal. With 73% of our students identified as Black and 52% as male, we acknowledge that 1 in 3 of those young people will likely spend time in prison. We want that to change. With 607 students, or 7% of our student population, suspended in the 2015-2016 school year, we want that to change, because that included kindergartners. With only 31% of our 3rd graders, and that is the second goal of My Brother's Keeper. With only 31% of our 3rd graders reading at grade level, we want that to change. And with a graduation rate of only 35% for students with special needs, and this is a disproportionate district with many children with special needs. We know we must change something. For us, listening to our children, our youth, and exercising the right to bring that to the attention of the school board and the school administration is not, in my opinion, griping. When our students complain about the lunch or the curriculum, and we know our grading practice is deficient, as evidenced by 60% of our students who are accepted to Westchester Community College must be enrolled in remedial classes because they cannot make the grade, we know something has to change. Things are not always what they seem. We applaud the improvements in infrastructure, and everyone agrees that the schools look better. Now let's examine what else we can change beside the facade. Regent Young says we should judge school districts by how they spend their time and their treasure. And he also says in his letter in the New York State Department, My Brother's Keeper guidance document, he also says that providing boys and young men of color with sustainable educational advancement opportunities is a matter of both social justice and economic importance. With this investment comes the opportunity to effect lasting and positive change in our schools and in our districts that will ultimately help to eliminate the opportunity gaps faced by males of color. Thank you, and I welcome all discussion.
Thank you. Thank you for... Sure.
Good evening, all. Mrs. Farquharson, I'd like to respond to that, if I may, because I don't want to, and I appreciate your diplomacy and which you represented your case, and I understand that your response may have been fueled by my email to you regarding some of the feedback that I got, and it was in no way intended to be offensive. It's that on the occasions that the MBK committee or team has met, the feedback that I have received, and I'm not naive enough to think that those were the only conversations that occurred, were children being very critical, or as if that format encouraged students to be very critical of the school district. And I certainly applaud and welcome freedom of speech and youngsters to advance their concerns. I meet with youngsters from every school in the district, representatives from every school every month, so I hear those concerns loud and clear. My concern with the email that I sent to you, what I was articulating, was that was not what I thought the MBK would hang its hat on, if you will. And again, I know that's not the only thing that's happening there, believe me. But those were the things that seem to be making their way to the top of the list of things that are coming out of that meeting in terms of how it's being reported to me. So we all want the same thing. What you identified as the goal of your work and that of Mrs. Nguyen and the other folks who are committed to MBK are school goals as well. I just want us to be as authentic to the MBK initiative as possible, and any way we can forge ahead to improve that partnership, I'm certainly committed to doing that.
I welcome your attendance to the meeting, Superintendent.
Thank you.
All right, and Mrs. Farquharson, I'm sure you practiced that speech a little. Okay. No, wait, I'm not. That's the point I was about to make, whether you practiced it or just wrote it before dinner, is that I'm sure you realize it took up a little bit more than 4 minutes. And, well, you're absolutely welcome. And actually, I don't like to cut people off. And that's why, and of course you have something very important to say, and you took the time to write it, so I welcome it. And so, just that tonight, I know that we have a lot of people who want to speak, and so what I'm thinking of maybe recommending to the board is that people who have, or who would like more than the 4 minutes to speak, maybe they let the clerk know at that time for a request to, apply for more minutes, and then we could grant that or not, depending on how many people we have, as a courtesy to everybody else, to make sure that everybody gets a chance. Because if everyone gets a chance, we know you have at least, how many people to sign up tonight? Okay, so almost 10 people tonight, and if they all take 8 minutes, we'll be here for 80 minutes for comments. So just to be fair, in the future, anyone who would like to speak for longer, just ask the board clerk, and then we could respond with a approval for that night, especially if there's not a lot of people. So that's all that's all I was trying to comment on, Mrs. Farquharson, so don't take it negatively. I appreciate your presence. I appreciate what you do in the community, and especially as it relates to MBK and our children. So thank you for coming. All right, our next speaker.
Mr. Monroe.
Okay, greetings to honorable trustees and staff, and of course the community. I want to basically make an appeal, a repeated appeal, for the dialogue that we've long spoken to, in the way that we can execute this dialogue of community forums. Now, community forums, we've spoken, myself and Trustee Zamora, and other community members have talked about the success and the potential dividends of community forums, literally at least a monthly gathering of community and or trustees or staff, teachers, et cetera, and students to open up dialogue on various topics concerning our education. I'm coming before the trustees because I want to make this appeal as urgent as it is. We're not anymore talking about a countdown clock towards any particular time and crisis. We're now on a plus time clock, where we're looking at the passage of crisis and our invocation of whatever the response is going to be, whether it's adequate or not. That particular crisis is the whole child, the holistic health of our children and our families. Education is obviously just one part of it as trustees, but I want to speak to it considering my participation in My Brother's Keeper. I want to recall the nature of what brought me to My Brother's Keeper. I want to recall, and I'm going to read all 6 actual My Brother's Keeper national benchmarks. The first is enter school ready to learn. The second is read at grade level by 3rd grade. The second is read at grade level by 3rd grade. The third is graduate from high school ready for college and career. The fourth is complete post-secondary education or training. The fifth is successfully enter the workforce and grow up in the safe communities and get a second chance if they make a mistake. Now, those are the national My Brother's Keeper benchmarks and milestones. I understand the 17 February New York State My Brother's Keeper Symposium went even more specifically into milestones that they felt even more specifically and more urgently needed to be addressed. I want to preface my commentary here that I think it's tragic that we were not represented by our superintendent, and I understand there was a staff member there, but I didn't see a full house in the videos of trustees or staff members from the district. Our mayor wasn't even there, so you know, I think it's a real, it's an unfortunate blemish on the nature of our urgency of what our leadership sees as urgency. The 6 milestones of the New York State My Brother's Keeper read as follows. Number 1, ensuring equitable access to high-quality schools and programs. Number 2, expanding prevention, early warning, and intervention services. Number 3, using differentiated approaches based on need and culture. Number 4, responding to structural and institutional racism. Number 5, making comprehensive and coordinated support services widely available. And number 6, engaging families and communities in a trusted and respectful way. If the New York State My Brother's Keeper can see to articulate those particular milestones in those particular ways, there's no excuse Mount Vernon has anymore for addressing the particular needs that we've been talking about here on this mic, myself and others, and not acting on it. We are on a plus time clock at this point. We're talking about what since crisis established have we been doing as leadership. As a member of the community leadership, I take my own responsibility and my own initiative to do what I can. I know many of our members around this community do what they can. I know for a fact, my mate is a teacher. Several of my family members are teachers. I know the very burdensome tasks that education brings into the life and the homes of educators, professional and otherwise. I know that the challenges of our students. I have 4 children, 2 of which are graduated from high school, 2 of which are still in elementary school. So I understand the state of our educational system. I understand the challenges of our social system. But I'm also here as a black man in an American post-Obama social circumstance. I'm not going to delineate what all that means. Obviously, you can ask 10 people what that means and you'll get 20 answers. So the fact is, we need to speak to what our social climate is and what our, not political, but what our whole family and social structure looks like and what that fabric is doing. Most people say it's unraveling. And we have an obligation, moral and otherwise, to address that. These dialogues are important, and I think we need to come to the table with an action plan, some dates and times as to what those dialogues look like. Our children need us, our families need us, and I understand the burdensome task that leadership of our district brings. We are a community under attack. We are a community, as institutional racism scholars have persisted to say, this is not a legacy of chance. This is not a legacy of some kind of happenstance. This is a legacy of a people under siege. You would not go into some place like a community of oppression anywhere else in the world where people are refugees or people are maybe, in any way group victims of any mass or systemic oppression and then instill upon them some kind of immediate lecture for what their responsibilities are. We cannot afford to do that to our families anymore. This pull yourself up by the bootstrap response has always been inappropriate, and it's even more so now, because America owes its oppressed victims, Black, Latino, Asian, tribal groups, and frankly, there is obviously the intersectionality of what oppression means. Our women, our children are not valued in this culture. We need to bring that into our education system and to our behavior with the community. So please act on that. That will be the last of my appeal.
Thank you. That was... Yeah, please.
So I'd like to take a moment to respond to that. First of all, I couldn't agree more with what you said, but I do think I need to say something relative to the MBK, as you alluded to that. On average, I spend about 3 of my 4 weekends in Mount Vernon working. I do have an elderly mother for whom I am her sole caretaker, and I do have a wife. So at some point, I have to make a distinction in how I manage my time. So my inability to attend some of the Saturday meetings as it relates to MBK is not an expression of lack of interest, but a lack of priorities. My mother, as long as she's here on earth, will be my priority, and my wife will be my priority. That is not to at all pit my work and my personal life against one another, but I do have some priorities that I have to balance. So please don't interpret my lack of attendance at the MBK initiative to mean that I am not supporting it, which is why I insist that a cabinet member is there who can represent me.
Thank you for saying that, Mr. Superintendent, because I was basically going to say the same thing. You know, and I could pretty much speak for most of the board members here as well, is that we all have a heavy load, and this is volunteer work for us, and I know I spend countless hours in the district, in the city, doing work over there as well. But don't mistake the fact that we're not present for a lack of support. I mean, we support you guys wholeheartedly. However, we all have to share in the responsibility into doing the things that this community needs. It cannot just be up to the people who sit on this board or people who are at the city level. Everyone has to chip in and do their part. So again, don't put them both in the same basket. Just because we're not present physically does not mean that we're not present with you spiritually, mentally, supporting your efforts and all that you do. But thank you so much. Next speaker.
Nadia Mondesier.
Good evening, Dr. Hamilton, Board President Zamore, other board trustees, members of staff, and members of the public. Good evening. I kind of feel like what I'm about to say is kind of fluff now, listening to everyone. I am here to talk about my experience on Parent Involvement Day, which was on February 13th. That was 2 weeks ago. My son is still very young. He's only been in the school 2 years, and I've attended both years. I really enjoy the experience. I get to spend the day with him at school, see what his day is like at school. I sit in his classroom. I have lunch with him. So I really want to wish that the district would sort of expand that experience for parents. The children really appreciated my presence in the classroom. I helped them tie their shoelaces, fix their clothes. The teachers also enjoyed me being there. I got to help them prepare the kids' folders to take home, different things in the classroom. I played with the kids. So I feel like the parents would enjoy this more if we sort of expanded it to more than just one day. In talking to parents, I found that many of them did not know about this day. I found out it's the second Monday in February every year. So I'm thinking that maybe we could have it twice a year to start, or we could have parents come in to read stories to the kids. I know in other schools that there's like a parent day where a parent is selected every week where you can come in to read stories to the kids. Your child gets to see you in the class with him, and the other kids, I think they enjoy seeing a parent in the class with them. I was kind of disappointed in the turnout at my school. I'm not sure exactly what the issue is. Maybe people are not able to take the entire day off like I can and come, or maybe they don't know. It's not marketed well, but I really feel that we should push more for parent involvement to come and spend a day with the children's class. I implore parents who are here who may not know or haven't taken advantage of it to do it. Tell your friends, tell your relatives, come to your children's class and see what a day is like for them. I spend my days at school wondering what's he doing now, where is he now? So that day really gives me sort of a glimpse into his day. But one thing I think we should improve on is the lunch menu. I have to say I was disappointed in the lunch experience in the cafeteria. I have to say that. I know that there's been some talk of trying to like change the company that handles the cafeteria. I'm not sure where that is going, but we have to do something about the menus. My son's best friend, he didn't eat at all. He, that day was grilled cheese, I think, was on the menu, and he didn't eat cheese. So the other alternative was a tuna sandwich, and it was like really covered with mayonnaise, and he didn't like that either. So he just nibbled on some baby carrots, and that's all he had. And then I noticed after lunch, around 2 o'clock, the kids are just restless. They don't pay attention. It's because they didn't eat properly during lunch, and the teachers were having a hard time. So that was really when I kind of stepped in and tried to like distract the kids or make the day go better in the afternoon, because it got really bad after 2 o'clock. So that's all I have.
Thank you. I'll start with, well, thank you for that. You know, I know that there may not be another parent involvement day, but there are some other days in the year where the district encourages parents to come. I know there's a day with dad, right?
Muffins with Mom.
Career
Muffins
day.
with mom.
There's career day.
And then there's career day. So there are some other opportunities. So that's 4 right there.
And Dr. Seuss Day.
And Dr. Seuss Day, right? So there's definitely a few more, and thank you for encouraging other parents to participate because it is a really good experience. In terms of the food, I know that the Wellness Committee has been working with our business superintendent and our new food service consultant to really change that experience. And we don't know, we haven't come, I know that, Rosemary, that's your board, that's your committee. You can report some more about it later on during the committee reports. We don't know where that's going yet. We're giving so far the current company, Sodexo, a chance to, show us how they could shine. I was just at Binghamton University this past weekend, and Sodexo is the food services provider over there, and it was a really good experience, so much so that my daughter all of a sudden wants to go there just because of the food. So I'm like, whoa, this is someone in the district that, we feel are challenged right now. So they do have the capacity, so we're trying to find out right now to see if they can use the capacity that we know they have here in the district to make it work for our children in our community. Thank you.
And lastly, there is the committee who coordinates and organizes Parent Involvement Day will have a debriefing day. And during that debriefing day, they review the surveys that parents complete. They talk about some plus and minuses and review opportunities for growth. So if you'd like to be a part of that committee, if you could just reach out to Donna Jackson in my office, she can tell you when that date is. And if your schedule permits, that would be a great committee for you to voice your concerns with in terms of how to expand that. I'm sure they'd be glad to entertain that.
Awesome. Good stuff. Next speaker.
Joy Nemhard.
All right. Mrs. Nemhard, before you start, I just want to remind all subsequent speakers to please be mindful of the clock. I don't like to cut anyone off, so, please, if it's a minute over, I don't mind, but just be mindful. Thank you.
I'll try to be short. Board trustees, superintendent, and community, good evening. Before I start, and I hope you will not count this as part of the time, 25 years ago, I had the pleasure of meeting Mayor Blackwood in this community. He cut the ribbon for my office, and after that, I was involved in the project that he has, and I brought along this book, and I thought that it was very befitting that I read a part of his journal. It says, "Our rich history as a city is to the credit of our parents, grandparents, and other city residents of previous generation. Our present stamina, I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses. Our present stamina we receive is responsibility of you, and for the future of Mount Vernon is in the hands of our children. We must invest in the next 100 years by devoting our time and energies to the youth of the city. The values, priorities, and commitment of our youth will determine the future of Mount Vernon. And that was Mayor Radford. He passed away last Wednesday, and there will be a memorial service at Grace Baptist Church on Thursday. So, can we have a moment of silence for Mayor Radford?
Yes.
May he so rest in peace.
Thank you.
Okay, now, what my concern was about the communication with the community. As a district leader, I keep involved with my community and other community. And importantly, I received this in my mailbox. It was not addressed to anybody. There are 4 voters in my house, my home. This was the only one. So I did a little census around Prospect Avenue, a number of homes. Did you get this? And they did not get this. I spoke with the clerk of the board about it. And I thought it was important because it's the revision, some revision for the bond. And everybody should know, as many people should know, because these were the same people who voted to institute the bond in the first place. Now, even, it was not only my district, even this evening, there was a gentleman here. He lives on Glen Avenue, and he rapped on my door. I said, did you get this? And he said, no. These are the people who pay $20,000, $40,000, $25,000 for income tax, and they know nothing about this. Now, then, this evening, 3 arrived in my mailbox. It's still, it doesn't say what it's about. So, because I inquired and I asked, I heard, and that's not the point. I am not concerned about what it's going to be for. I'm concerned about the fact that the residents who voted for the bond and did not know about it. In the meantime, I heard that there were meetings that were being held, like in court buildings, to get people to vote. And I just think that this is wrong. I think that you ought to communicate with the taxpayers who bear the brunt of the tax dollar that is implemented in the bond. So that's a part of my concern. And I would like to know why the names of were not on this. The names were on this. Why is it that this was cut short and not addressed rather than a generic poster? So what happened is the postman neglected to deliver to many people, or I would say most people, because of the 20 people that I spoke with, sold houses or talked with, they know nothing about this bond, nothing about the revision. So if it was important to send it out, it should be in its entirety. Now, one more point, I hope my 3 minutes is over, is that I'm still concerned about the special ed program. And it keeps coming back to me. There are 2 children who I once went sit down with Dr. Hamilton, that the parent was concerned that the special ed program is not properly run. And the teachers, your very teachers are telling me the same thing, that the children are being ported into the class. This is where the dysfunction occurs, so that there's no optimizing on the curriculum for children who are supposed to be, in a regular program. And just not shying of saying what it is to get more funding for the program. So why is it cut short? Now, these children, they came to my house last week with their mother, and she said, you know, I got them into Imani, and they're doing much better. They sat down, I gave them drink, they're gone. So it means that the program is not getting better. And it's being funded. And we have teachers. So we have to find a way of doing that. So those are my concerns for the evening.
Thank you. I'll address first, thank you, in terms of the voting and the postcards and stuff, and then I'll let Rick finish that off, and then maybe you could handle the piece on the special education. So, Mrs. Nemhart, regarding the postcard, we attempt to communicate with the public in many different ways. One is, I believe, how many newsletters went out since I think one newsletter? There's been one newsletter produced so far? Newsletter, the full? No, since for the bond vote.
There's one, yes.
Yes. So since the bond vote, we have one, I believe it's 8 pages? 4 pages?
4 pages.
4-page newsletter that went out regarding the bond vote. We've had, of course, every meeting since, I believe, December, we've been talking about the bond modification vote. We've had this postcard. It's on our website. It's on our Facebook page. So we are attempting to get the word out in many different ways. We've also have had, how many informational sessions throughout the community? 8? 8. We've had 8 informational sessions,
Including weekends.
including weekends, throughout the community. And so we are trying different ways to reach everyone. But of course, that will never happen. We'll never reach 100% of the people, and some people just tune out anyway. But we will make every attempt, and we will not stop short. Some people will get the stuff, throw it in the garbage, and say, I never got it. However, with the names, that's something that I will let Rick answer, but I do know that I've looked into a bulk mailer recently, and there was this new option, and one of the new options was that, and it was a cheaper option, if they didn't address it specifically to people, it was less expensive by almost 50% if the carrier just took the bulk and just dropped it with, put one together. And I asked the guy, I said, well, what if they get lazy, they just don't feel like doing it? And he was like, well, we hope that they don't do that, but, that's possible. So that may be possible in terms of what you had experienced, and I'll ask the district clerk to answer that. And if that is the case, if that's the type of mailer that we have, maybe we ought to change that so that it could be addressed personally, so now they could sort it with the people's mail so that we make sure they get it. So Rick, why don't you answer that part?
All right, so the postcard, the glossy 6x9 postcard was sent out by something called EDDM, Every Door Direct Mail. That is different than bulk mail. So when you purchase a bulk mail and you do a bulk mailing, the postal carrier has the authority, and it's his prerogative when you go to large housing complex to leave a stack of them on the table. We don't pay for that. We pay for Every Door Direct Mail, which is the 6x9 postcard, and that is required under the purchasing policy that we have with them, that those go in physical mailboxes. They are supposed to be inserted into each and every mailbox, and it goes one per household. That's why you only got one for your 4 members, even though there are 4 registered voters. We have made outreaches to the postmaster in the past. I have in the past spoken to Congressman Engel's office about it, because this is not a new issue that the postal carriers, they're not, and I certainly don't want to throw a postal carrier under the bus, but they're not doing what they're expected to be doing. We get photographs of people getting stacks of mail in their high-rise apartment buildings in Mount Vernon, that those postcards are just sitting there. So we do go the extra, we don't get the cheapest mail option, which would be bulk, which would just be dropping it everywhere. We get EDDM. So that was the 6x9 postcard, and that's why that is not directed to individual taxpayers or voters or individuals. The small white postcard, that is a mailing that we did through our election company, Bold Systems, and that was directed to every registered voter in the Mount Vernon City School District, informing them that for the March 7th election specifically, their voting location had changed. And that is why that one for your house individually, you got 4, because we had to inform each individual voter in your home that what their voting location would be for the March 7th election. Mr. Silver and I went to the post office today, in fact, to talk about some of the issues that you and I talked about yesterday. And despite various attempts to reach the postmaster this afternoon, I wasn't able to. And it's my intention to go back there tomorrow to once again bring up this issue with the Mount Vernon Post Department.
So, okay, I'm sorry.
And I'm certain that's really the end of what I understand about
Right.
mail carrying
So I
process.
guess what we have to figure out is what is the extra expense, the added expense to have it with the individual resident's name, every resident in Mount Vernon.
Very expensive.
That's first-class mail. That would be
First
the
class,
equivalent of
okay.
that would be equivalent of a stamp.
Okay, so in terms of, all right, so we'd have to figure in terms of the dollar amount, and then we'd have to have a conversation with the rest of the board members to kind of feel, kind of like take a look at it and see what's most efficient and effective for us to do. But I certainly understand your concern that every voter needs to know. Now, the other thing is that during the first bond, if this is the method that we're using, the same people that you say voted under the first bond got the same type of mailing that you just received. So if we missed them, then we missed them probably for the first bond as well. But I'd like to capture everyone in the district, since everyone in the district has the right to the opportunity to have the information and to vote. So we will look into that further, and thank you so much for bringing it to our attention. And now to answer the question regarding special education, I'll let Superintendent Hamilton handle that for you.
Our special ed department, I beg to differ with you, and it's not, well, our special ed department, we have been consistently under an audit by the state and an independent auditor, and receive monthly updates on our efforts to rectify non-compliant issues. So the misnomer that special education has not improved is not accurate. In fact, the state has, in fact, been very complimentary of our efforts to improve special education, including non-compliant issues that date back to 2006. So the scope of the two youngsters that you may have in some interaction with is not at all indicative of the 1,000 other youngsters who have IEPs whose educational needs are in fact being met. Funding is not an issue because we pay more for services for youngsters who have IEP in order to ensure that their learning disabilities are being adequately addressed. If there are specific needs that you are aware of and you are authorized by that parent to receive that information, I encourage you to speak with Mrs. Gaon or the case manager, who can then provide that information for you. But because of student confidentiality, you would need that parent there or his or her consent in order to do that. Okay.
Thank you. Did that answer all of your concerns, Mrs. Undenhart? All right, thank you so much. Okay, and the district clerk just also informed me that we've been using the EDDM method in the district for at least the past 10 years, and he said that they've had issues before with the post office, and he went to the postmaster's office today, and he heard them inside, knocked on the door, and they refused to answer. So, yeah, we have some other issues that we have to yet deal with. I don't think he wanted me to share that with everybody, but it's okay. Oops. Next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Timothy Crump.
Good evening. To all teachers regarding first marking period report card grade, date November 4th, 2016. The first marking period will end on November 10th, 2016 at 2:49. Please note the following directions. 1. The window for teacher access on eSchool to enter grades for the first marking period will be open at 8 a.m. on Tuesday, November 8th, and will be closed on Tuesday, November 15th at 12 noon. Grades must be entered within this time period only. Mark verification sheets along with a directive containing instructions will be placed in your mailbox by 7 a.m. on Wednesday, November 16th, and must be returned to your administrator's attention no later than 1 p.m. Please follow instructions on the mark verification directive carefully. Remember that attendance for September 6, 2016 through November 10, 2016 is directly computed for this report from your regular daily attendance input in eSchool. You do not have to enter attendance. The lowest failing grade that can be given for the first marking period is 60. The highest failing grade to be given is 63. All students should receive a grade of 60 to 100. Any failing grade must be accompanied by a comment indicating the reason for the failure. Note, every student must receive at least 2 comments. No grade below 60 is to be entered under any circumstances for the first marking period. Use NM or no mark along with the comment ENG 14, newly admitted to class, for students who entered your class for after the first 6 weeks with no basis for a grade. NM must be converted into a grade prior to the end of the second marking period. A no-show student should receive an NM as well as comment 55. Homebound students, if any of your students have been placed in homebound instruction, please consult the student's counselor regarding the grade to be given. If no grade has been received from the homebound instructor, enter NM with the proper comments. Comment 55 may only be used if a student has never shown to class. If a student has come to class one time, he or she is not eligible for comment 55 and/or a no-show. Remember, a no-show is a student who has never attended your class. Use ND for students who have a medical note excusing them from participating in class. This applies to PE classes only. Please note that you are to use the same comments as last year. Secondary mathematics grading policy. This course of study includes different components of which each are assigned the following percentages to compromise a final grade. If you want the student to understand, I want the student to understand that your grades are not something that I give you, but rather a reflection of the work you give me. Components. Common assessments, 35%. Quizzes.
All right, Mr. Crump, if you could please come to a point. Yes, exactly. I'm just asking him. Yep. No, I'll add it. You're making it take longer. Just let you know you have 1 minute to come to your conclusion.
I'm almost done. Quizzes, 20%. Homework, 20%. Notebook or journal, 10%. Classwork, 15%. Class participation will play a significant part in the determination of your grade. Class participation will include the following: attendance, punctuality to class, contributions to the instructional process, effort, contributions during small group activities, and the attentiveness in class. Important notice: as per MVCSD Board Resolution 0671, the parent notification policy states parents/guardians or adult students are to be notified in writing at any time during a grading period when it is apparent that a student may fail or is performing unsatisfactorily in any course or grade level. Parents or guardians are also to be notified in writing at any time during the grade period when it becomes evident that the student's conduct or effort grades are unsatisfactory.
Is there a point or conclusion you'd like to make with that?
Good catch.
Mr. Crump? No, I understand. Well, this is the end. Is this not the end of your comment? Oh, there's more that's related? Okay, so he could let us know that in the future. Because you know what? One thing is that the public would like to know sort of like what you're doing. So if you're reading something into the public record, you could state that, and if there's a continuance of that particular point, you could state so as well, so that we could kind of put it together to see where you're going with this. It'll be more effective of a delivery, and also it'll help us to focus. Thank you. No problem. Next speaker.
Destiny Crump.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to read into the public record an email regarding the second marking period grade directive dated January 17th, 2017. The second marking period will end on Friday, January 27th, 2017 at 2:50 p.m. The window to enter grades in eSchool will be open from Tuesday, January 17th, 2017 through Tuesday, January 31st, 2017 at 12 noon. Please read and very carefully follow the directions listed below. 1. Grades may be entered into eSchool Plus for the second marking period and Regents exams as followed. A. All second marking period grades are due on Wednesday, January 25th by no later than 12 noon. Grade verification sheets for the second marking period will be placed in mailboxes by Thursday morning, January 26th, and are to be returned to your department administrator by no later than 8 a.m. on Friday, January 27th. B. All Regents examination grades for exams administered before Thursday, January 26th, are due by no later than 12 noon on Friday, January 27th. All Regents examination grades for exams administered on Friday, January 27th, are due by no later than 12 noon on Monday, January 30th. Department administrators must enter grades for Regents walk-ins. 2. Remember that attendance is directly computed for this report from your regular daily attendance and put in eSchool. You do not have to enter attendance. No grade below 55 is to be entered under any circumstances. The highest failing grade to be given is 63, and any failing grade should be accompanied by a comment indicating the reason for the failure. If a student is illegally absent for a midterm exam, the student will be given 0 for the exam grade. For midterm exam and Regents grades, use the actual grade 0 to 100. If a student is absent, a grade of no mark must be entered. The student's score on the midterm exam should be entered in the exam column. This is for parent information only. The score of the midterm exam will not be automatically calculated into the grade for the marking period. You must do this yourself when calculating the grade. Remember, the midterm exam is 20% of the second marking period grade. 6. Use a pass or fail for resource grade. Use MD for PE only. If the student has a medical reason for not earning a grade in cases where a numerical grade cannot be given, enter the Regents exam grade in the Regents box. If the student is absent or excused, use no mark, do not enter a 0, and or do not leave blank. Walk-ins will be entered by the department administrator by no later than Monday, January 30th at 12 noon. Makeups for non-Regents examinations should be scheduled by appointment only from Monday, January 23rd through Friday, January 27th. Students who have been absent for any school midterms need a written note from a parent verified by someone to make up a midterm exam. Students who miss school midterm examinations and makeup examinations must have a doctor's note in order to be excused from the midterm exam. The student must present a doctor's note to the school nurse, who will verify and forward it to the appropriate counselor. Any student who is absent from taking the January Regents on the designated date must take the Regents in June. If you have any questions or concerns regarding this directive, please contact your department administrator for clarification. Accuracy is essential. Even if you are absent, it is your professional responsibility to enter your grades on time, no exceptions. The deadline is January 27th at 12 noon. Thank you for your professionalism and dedication to our students. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Brenda L. Crump.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
The series is talking about the district's grading practice, because those board members who are still sitting there now who sat when I sat there should be aware of this, because I've spoken about it. To this administration, this practice did not start with this administration. It started under Dr. Sawyer. But however, this administration has continued it. And each administration that has come after Dr. Sawyer was aware of this. This administration was also brought to this administration's attention. And as I said, the board members that sat with me is aware of this. Perhaps some of the newer board members is not aware of this grading practice. This grading practice breeds mediocrity with our children. It is a mathematical formula where the children have figured out that if I don't do well this marking period and that marking period, if I get this amount, I can still pass the class. And in to fairness of the teachers, it's not fair if children are not properly taught in one grade level or in one subject, and then they move to the next one. And that teacher now has a curriculum that they have to follow, but they can't do it because the children haven't been taught properly. I'm sure you've heard teachers say children come unprepared. What I would like to know is, when is the district going to develop a committee of community stakeholders and district staff to create a grading policy, like one was created for the GPA, grade point average policy. I also want to let the district know that my children requested their student detail report for the second marking period. You're aware we had some challenges for the first. We've had some challenges every year. They're in the 12th grade now. I've had 7 children, including them, to go through this district, and every year there's a challenge with gathering the student detail report. February 7th, they requested the second marking period student detail report. As of today, February 28th, all of the teachers still have not responded, so that they can do a check and balance of the report card for the grade, because we need an integrity in our grading process. When we get the report card, it may reflect one grade. When we get the student detail report, for example, one of my children, 80, was on the report card. They actually earned a 90-something. So without that student detail report, to do a check and balance of the report card, we don't have that. I won't go much into the student detail report because I did that before in reference to the importance of that and the level of integrity to the grading process and accountability for all the team players, the parents, the teachers, the students as well. I would like to meet with the school trustees to be able to sit down and show you documents and go over more about the importance of every child receiving a student detail report without the parent having to ask for it, without the child having to ask for it. Also, I want to talk about the marking period interim progress report, which I, as a parent, have received reports that says passing at this time, and when I request the student detail report, realized that the child was not passing. It was a failing at that moment, or vice versa. It had said passing and or failing, and the child was passing. The integrity of the district grading process is very important. For the system to be set up where a first marking period under no circumstances, and the teachers have complained about this, administrators, et cetera, have complained about this, where you have a child that comes to school every day, go to school for before school, during school, and after school help, and for whatever reason they're struggling and can barely make it, and they're earning a 65, which is borderline performance. And you may have children who just come in lackadaisy, maybe high absenteeism, not coming at all, and the teachers are kind of forced to give them a 60. Whenever a parent receives a progress report or report card or student detail report, there should be some integrity in the grade. If a report card is given, the teacher should be able to substantiate the grade that's given. Children should know what their grades are as they're moving through the year from each interim progress report and report card so that they can have time to improve. So I will close with, when is the district going to develop this committee so that we can work on this? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll let the superintendent handle your concerns for you regarding the student detail report, and if we could send it out automatically, and some of the other concerns you raised regarding setting up a committee just for this particular reason. I'm not sure if that is at all necessary. We may be able to figure something else out. The superintendent could maybe make a smaller committee of maybe some cabinet members as he chooses to, figure this part out if he so deems. Please.
Yes. I'm not sure what the challenge is. I am aware of the initial challenge that you had with getting a detailed report. I'm not aware of the second one. That conversation, I'm assuming that you've already had at the building level. But in order for me to respond to that, I would certainly need to have had the opportunity to speak to the building principal or her designees in order to find out what challenges there may be with getting that detailed report. So to give you an intelligent answer to that without having done that due diligence, I'm not able to do so.
And that's okay, sir, because I wasn't asking for a response to that. I'm sharing information with the administration and the board that these challenges still persist, even now moving into the second marking period. It was for information, and I will be forwarding the email, but all this kind of ties in together.
Okay. Thank you. And in terms of the policy, we'll certainly put that on the policy agenda to review if it is a policy that needs to be reviewed. But it doesn't sound like the policy is the issue. It sounds like the practice is the issue, and that may need to be addressed. That may need to be addressed at the building You're the only parent, to my knowledge, who has had that challenge, so we'll address it at the building level.
So when you say that challenge, Dr. Hamilton, what do you mean that challenge?
I have heard of no other parent complaining about not being able to get the detailed progress report.
No, we're talking about the grading practice now of no lower than a 60 this marking period, no lower than a 55 the other marking period under any circumstances.
I walked away with the wrong gist of your comments then. That would be a policy issue, and we can take that to the policy committee.
Okay.
Can I speak to that a little bit? Based on my experience, and you could go and Google all the grading policies for most districts, giving grades that are below 60 or 55, are can be psychologically devastating for students. Anything below 65 is failing. So student who's failing with a 60, minds, would have the mind of thinking, you know what, I'm close to passing. I'm close to being able to, at least psychologically, it would not be devastating for them. Most schools have this policy when they enter the grades. 65 is, at standards or approaching standards. 75 is at standards. 85 is above 85 is above standards, and above 95 is exceeds standards. So you have those standards, for most school districts, but you're not going to put a 30 or a 25 or a 0 on a child report card. It would be psychologically devastating for the child. So you always have to have that in mind. This is not just Mount Vernon which is doing it, but almost all the school districts around the nation. Now, in terms of the practices of giving detailed progress reports, those can be obtained through progress report from the teacher to the student. Now, and again, I agree with you that there should be a policy of having teachers provide those, those reports, prior to the submissions of the grade at the end. And so that's basically it. Okay.
May I say this, please? Because
Yeah.
and I do want to meet with trustees so that we can ample time to lay the actual documents, factual documents out and show you. But when a child receives a report card that says a 60 and is actually a 48, and the child does not know that, that is not helping a child to receive a 60 and think, I'm almost there. So this is what I'm saying about the integrity of the grading process, the grading practice in this district, and how it sets our children up, and how it promotes when our children says, oh, well, I got a 65, I'm passing. Where is that good, better, best? Never settle for less until my good becomes better and my better becomes best. Where is that strive, and I choose not to meander in the halls of mediocrity, but soar to the heights of excellence? If we set this kind of pattern up for our children, and they're just striving for mediocrity to where I'm just barely passing, or they don't even really realize that they're failing because the grade on the report card is not the true reflection of what they have, and they don't realize that they're failing.
Well, let me just say
No,
one thing.
they do know, the standards do say anything below 65 is failing. So they do know that they have failed. They have failed. So knowing that they have failed, it doesn't matter if you scored a 0 up to 64. It doesn't matter. You have failed. So, and that's why you have these 4 levels. Anything below 65 is a level 1. So they know that. And anything, level 2, it's, I believe, level 1 and 2. So, if you take it if you do use that scale. But students knowing that they have failed is already damaging to them. And the only country that has this practice is the U.S. Why? Because this is the only country where students learn and stay in school from pre-kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, where they have to stay in. In most schools, you fail, you are out of the system. So these are the practices. I'm just telling you how educationally these policies have been made across the nation. Now, you can talk about mediocrity, I agree, because And the systems are different. You go to other countries too, it's not out of 100. You would see different scale, out of 20, for instance. And in those scale, you would see a student, and they will tell you below 10 is failing. Anything above 10 is passing. And most students would score between 10 and 15, for instance, where 15 represents almost the highest of the standards. So you have to go back and really understand why, you know, these practices have been turned into policies in this country. And that's, you know, probably the reason why you see these, you know, students getting a 60 or a 55. Even the regions in New York State, you fail, you're given a 55. You're not given a grade. Now, when you look at your paper, you may see that you've scored maybe a 32 or a 20, but on the paper it's going to say a 55. So why? Because it's failing. And if there was a time even when if you get a 55, you can move to the next class, but you're not going to take the highest level of the regions. You will take a different type of regions, or you will have to come back and take the regions again. Again, you know, these policies have been made because of the nature of the school system, which enable every single student to keep on moving. Even, you know, you're talking about policy of repeating a class, for instance. I'm pretty sure if you go to many schools, given if you use some of the standards, many of the students would not be going to the next class, and yet they continue, you know, and yet they keep on going up to 12th grade. Again, this is the only nation that have that practice. So there is a lot to be said about the education system in the U.S., you know, in this sense. We can go and take a look at these policies and see what can we do, especially in communities like Mount Vernon, in communities where, you know, we have needs, socioeconomic needs, you know, because I'm pretty sure if you go to Bronxville, you're not going to find that issue there. So,
you know, the other thing, I'll just get this out of my head. I think what Dr. Ning also is sort of like referring to is, I know in sports, if one team is beating another team by a certain number, the other team sort of like stops scoring. Because there's no need to beat them by 200 points. You know, it's like they're going to suffer a loss at some at a certain number. They can't catch up. It's going to be impossible. At first, I used to think, like, why not? Just, you know, let's teach them a lesson. You know, if they're going to lose by 200, make them lose by 200 or 300. But it is psychologically devastating. And I think on the other level, that's what Dr. Ning is referring to. And the other thing is that the child will have plenty of opportunities to realize that they did not make the grade. When they have their individual scores on their individual test papers, well, 38 plus 28 plus 48 does not add up to 60, so I think they recognize it then. And at the end of the day, failing is failing. It gives the parents an opportunity to get involved, or, you know, the caretaker of the child to get involved and to know that, hey, look, let's work on making sure that you do much better. So I think there's plenty of opportunities there, and I think this is something that it's, again, indicative of the entire system. It's not just over here, so I'm not sure if there's that much we could do about it, but Trustee McCohen, why don't you step in?
And the education, by the way, this is an issue you could come and talk to the education committee, you know, about, and, you know, we'll discuss it at length, and if whatever type of change needs to be done, you know, can be proposed through there. Sorry.
Boy, we've gone off some tangents here, I think. And I've been on a basketball team that lost by 50 before. It didn't feel good. No, I just, we've kind of drifted off into talking about, you know, grade inflation nationwide and the history of that, which is far beyond, I think, the point you were trying to make, Mr. Crump, at least what I took from it, which is an important point, which is, and there are reasons for minimums. There are reasons why every school district does this. Part of it is correlating to other districts in the state when you transfer, and how the grades measure across districts and the state and the country. When you go to college, that's how colleges are, you know, grade you. But I think the 2 points that I took from your remarks, which are very important ones, which is, number one, are students aware of this? Right? That's the point. Because students aren't stupid. We just need to make sure that they know that if they see a 60, does that really mean a 60 or does it not really mean a 60? And how do we know that? How do the kids know that? So that's a good question, and I would like to know the answer to that too. How is that being communicated? If that's how the system is set up, we just need to make sure everyone knows what the system is, right, that we all work in. But the second issue you raised, which is how is it possible that a quarterly report and a report card and an interim progress report could have different grades? Obviously, there's a deficiency in the system somewhere, or an error or something that needs to be corrected. If that's in fact going on, that's obviously very, very concerning. And I don't know. I know, Dr. Gorman's working on reviewing the course catalog and reviewing kind of district-wide software and stuff at the moment. So I don't know if you want to speak to kind of how a discrepancy like that might happen, or how we can catch things like that to make sure they don't happen.
The other thing that might be a solution is maybe, and again, there might be a standard here that we can't touch, just throwing it out there, that maybe under a certain grade, such as a 65, it then translates to a letter grade rather than a fake average, right? So under 65, it's F period. You figure out what that means. So I don't know, again, maybe participating in the education subcommittee and discussing that further with the administration, the subcommittee could flesh some things out.
I think that would be the most appropriate venue.
Right. In fact, F is 55. If F, D minus is 65, is 60, and a D is 65. In most cases. So.
Okay. All right.
So I hope the board will address this, but I think it's very important for me to leave off with, because I think quite a few of you are missing it. And that is, this is a grading practice that was put in place unbeknownst to parents. The district does not publicize this. The district does not inform, enlighten, educate, and empower the community, the children, the parents, etc., with this practice. What the district has done is, and it really does kind of lack integrity, is have created for each of the courses like math, science, social studies, etc., is calling what's really perceived as a grading rubric a grading policy. So the district does not have a grading policy. It has this grading practice, and on its website and in its meetings that some of the administration give to parents, and they present what's really like a grading rubric as a grading policy. I really hope the district looks into this, because the children have figured out a system. It does not promote them working harder and doing their best, because I can sit back and relax. I can chill. I cannot come to school. And they got the mathematical system down that if I get this number, this marking period, this number, that marking period, I can pick it up here, and then I can pass, but then you're not really passing.
Like I said, they're
because
not
65 is borderline passing.
Well, if they're doing all of that, I don't know why they're not passing. But I can say that I can assure you that there's nothing nefarious here in terms of the administration holding back or trying to trick parents into one type of system versus another. But what I will say is that we will look into it, and the superintendent will speak to his staff and cabinet about it, and then we'll report back as to see what's really going on. But thank you so much for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you, and to the credit of this administration. It didn't start here. When it started, it was that deception. However, this administration is aware of it. We have board members that is aware of the continuing of it.
I understand, and even though I was not part of the board during that previous administration, I still refuse to accept that it was deception. I would hate to think that anyone that sits here would really be part of that practice. But anyway, I will take it at face value for now. Thank you so much. Do we have another speaker?
So what is the time, date, and location of the curriculum committee?
The education committee.
This Thursday at 8 a.m.
8 a.m.?
We already have a agenda already planned for
That's
this.
fine, but so what's is it a set schedule? Is it what Thursday? So how are people supposed to know how to attend for those who can attend at 8 a.m. in the morning? Community constituents?
Yeah, yes, it's a very good point, and I know we discussed that last night, and I know we've made a better effort in terms of notifying the public on the website when these subcommittee meetings are. Sometimes they have to change just because of scheduling conflicts or emergencies that appear. So then it will be our duty, of course, to, again, change it on the website and maybe have a temporary change section. I don't know. We're going to try to figure something out. But at least, at minimum, the standing meetings should be on the website. So I will implore all the trustees and their subcommittees to please put that on, at least the standing committees, and then if something changes, then we'll address to see how we can notify the public a little bit more effective and efficient
May I
manner.
ask a question?
Sure.
Ms. Crump, have you signed up to be on the Education Committee? Well, then I would recommend, no, but I'm just saying, well, it's not always 8 a.m., I understand, I'm not sure. But the point I'm making, so far, but if there's a committee member, don't give up. If there's a committee member that wants to be on the committee, then I recommend you let Dr. Gorman or either Trustee White or Trustee Ning know you'd like to be on the committee, and I'm sure they will do everything they can to accommodate you. But the bottom line is, if you have a specific committee, and they're all listed, the committees that we have, if you have a specific committee you'd like to be involved with, then I suggest you sign up for it. And then work out the details later, because we all have to work out the details later. People's schedules change, people get sick, so on. But sign up for the Education Committee, and then you will get the notifications about when the dates are, no matter when they change. I recommend that for anyone who wants to be on a committee.
Work on having the chairs, and will the chairs work on, please setting a set date, time, and location, and this way people can schedule and they can plan and prepare to attend for those who can do 8 a.m. in the morning and whatever other times that may be set. And understanding that things happen and come up.
Yes,
and you may
we
need
got
to
that.
reschedule it.
We got
but
that.
to just sporadically schedule meetings here and
No,
there.
you're absolutely right.
Opportunity to participate.
Ms. Crump, you're absolutely right, and I just did mention that at minimum, and then right now, actually, so that we could wrap it up, I know we have some other speakers to go. Let's go around the room right now, and Rick, maybe you could memorialize this in terms of the committees that we have, the times that we have it set forth, and Rick, you can make sure that that goes on the website immediately. I believe our committee reports before. Oh, do we go away? No, we do it before we go away, right? Okay, so we're about to do that. Let's finish up the speakers, because actually we do that before we go into executive session, so you'll have a chance to hear it. Okay? All right, thank you so much, and the next speaker.
Thomas Keller. That's you.
No, I don't think so. I haven't seen him. That's it? Okay, great. So, superintendent's report. We're going to move on to the superintendent's report.
Good evening, all. I do have a few things I'd like to share with you this evening. First of all, I received a proclamation as a tribute to President Barack Obama by the Westchester County Board of Legislators at their February 13th, 2017 meeting. This proclamation was presented on behalf of the Mount Vernon City School District, and I would like to share this, distribute this across so that the board members have an opportunity to view it before we mount it. And it was the request of the legislators that this be mounted in our central office until such time as we can present it to former President Barack Obama. I will also be attending the National Conference on Education. This conference is focused on building supports to help principals achieve higher standards, so I'm looking forward to that. Our graduation data was recently released. We will be providing the board with a full presentation at the March 7th meeting, which is next week, along with recommendations for opportunities for growth. There's also an item on the agenda this evening I'd like to ask Dr. BC to just give you a little background information on, because in my survey with the board today, there are a couple of questions, and I'd just like her to take maybe 1 minute to just surmise how the Friendship for Tots program was selected as our private care providers for our 3-year-old program. And then lastly, I will share with you that I have issued a memo, a district-wide memo, to all district employees, asking them to use a standard greeting when answering the phone and some protocols related to how we manage phone calls. And the caller should answer the phone, "Good morning, good afternoon, this is so-and-so, I'm in such and such department at Graham School, for example, at the Mount Vernon City School District, how may I assist you?" No phone call should go unanswered for more than 3 rings. No call should not be transferred. No one should be told to dial a different extension when they have the capacity to transfer, and voicemail should be checked daily and calls returned within the next business day. So I share this with you because this is a standard that we are implementing throughout the district. I'm asking you as board members and members of the public call and check people on that. And if you're not getting that quality of service, to let my office know so that we can follow up on that. This is just our effort to increase a more cooperative and customer-friendly, responsive school community. So, Dr. BC, if you could take a moment to just explain that selection process for Friendship Tots, and that will conclude my report after Dr. BC's presentation. And happy birthday again, Dr. BC.
Happy birthday.
Why we chose Friendship for Tots for our pre-K 3 venture is because we have to choose an organization that we have a relationship with. We have 2 organizations that we have a relationship with, and that is Friendship for Tots and Lady of Victory, or Lady of Victory. It so happens that Our Lady of Victory only have 2 classrooms, number 1. Number 2, the Archdiocese wants to charge an arm and a leg, and we could not afford to go there. So the only option we have is Friendship for Tots. So therefore, we have 54 kids. He has 6 rooms. We took 3, but we're going to take another one for 4 because the state told me that when I told them that I have a waiting list of 14 more kids to add to the 54, they said, please do not keep the kids on the waiting list, put the 14 in. So we're going to use another room. So that's why we're having, we use Friendship for Tots. Now, I must say the early literacy education K-3 is also part of the MBK initiative because that's part of the early literacy education thing that we're starting. So, and I have to say that all the MBK initiatives that was mentioned tonight, we are working on most of them. But according to the state, we can't do all 6 of them at any one time. But I have to say that the district, though, is tapping in on all 6. So there's going to be more information to come on that later. But we're just organizing ourselves together to make sure that what we do is going to be done properly with the right stakeholders. So with that being said, my minute is up. So if you have any questions on the pre-K 2-3, I'm excited. I went to look at them the other day, and the little babies, one of them came across and shook my hand. You know, when I was introduced to them, he came over, shook my hand, and said, thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's a 3-year-old. So I'm very excited about the new initiative. And I have to say that it's the first time in our district that we are doing pre-K 2-3. And I'm excited, and so I want everybody to be excited.
We're excited as well. Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Sure, please.
This week I visited the Mount Vernon Daycare Center in Mount Vernon on 2nd Avenue, and they have lost children to Friendship Tree, but it's understandable because the Friendships program is all day and the daycare, but they have 2 vacant, beautiful classrooms, and they lost, out of a class of 14, they lost 10 to Friendship in the 3rd classroom. So I am asking you to give some attention to Mount Vernon Daycare. They run a program. We visited 3 different programs last week, and that is a setting that we found moving along. The children were happy. They're beautiful children, and we would like not to have to close out a center while we build another one, but you don't do that. However, the reason for the children's leaving was it was an extended day, a longer day, and of course parents would find that to be more accommodating.
Okay, so what I'll do, I'll go visit them, and we'll be too happy to do any partnership with anybody who's willing to work with us. But I must also say, it's full day pre-K, so that's why everybody's taking, you know, and as I said, Friendship Man has all the space to do everybody, so I will be very happy to visit them, as I promised you, and we take them.
We built that center years ago, and funding and fundraising and all of that, and now to have them have two well-designed pre-K classrooms that are empty.
Right, and I promise you I'll go take a look at it, and I'll probably even call you to meet me there if you want to go with me when I go to look at it.
Well, the other, Dr. BC, during the conversation that we had regarding pre-K3, and I asked the question, and I think maybe other members of the community and the board should know, is that, and maybe you did mention it and I missed it, is that the instruction is actually given by the district and not by the facility. So the facility is only providing space. And so the other facility that you speak of, Mrs. Nguyen, is, are they providing instruction, or is it just for space? Right, because I think in this particular scenario, well, maybe you could elaborate, Dr. VC.
Well, actually, I would, I'm just bringing you the information.
Right.
And we were looking at other places to assist them, but the school district should be the place, since you're farming, you know, we're going to other facilities.
Right, I'm gonna take a look at it, and it doesn't matter what we have, then it just cannot work, but I'm gonna take a look at it. Well, the school district, just get the location.
Right, I just want to be clear that at Friendship, it's just a location. They're not providing instruction there. The instruction is actually provided by the district. So
Is that true?
that's, that,
Is that true? Okay, so pay scale, is that the same or is it different? If you provide the instruction from the school district, the quality and the curriculum and all is designed by this school district?
Right, because
Okay.
they're doing K through 4 as well. They're
Okay.
following that.
So what happens in terms of salaries? Are they receiving the salaries that people within this district? In other words, are we paying less to those people who provide the same thing that you provide here? I need a...
No. We're providing what the state approved us to do.
It's $700 per month per child.
is everyone clear? Yes? No? Yes? Okay, thank you so much. All right. Okay.
That concludes the superintendent's report.
And I do not have a president's report for tonight, so, well, it's because of the extended time that we spent on the community concerns, so I want to keep this meeting moving. And right now, I don't think we need to wait for, well, we can skip, I think we're on 4 because Rick had to use the men's room. So we're going to go to committee report. Actually, yeah, that's where we're on right now anyway. So Trustee White, you want to start off with any reports from your committee? And for the record, I'll take notes for Rick. Are you 8 a.m. on Thursdays, and which Thursday?
Yes, we meet the last Thursday of each month before the first board meeting. The reason this week has changed because last we were on vacation. So now that's why it's March 1st.
So what time is that? Is that 5:30?
8.
Well, you said before the board meeting. Wait, which board meeting?
No.
Oh,
A week before the first board meeting.
Okay, so the last Thursday.
The last Thursday.
Period.
Before the first board meeting. Of the month.
Right, all I need is the first part, the last Thursday.
Yes,
Is
last Thursday.
All right. We're doing the committee reports, and this is education, which is the last Thursday period of the month. Okay. At 8 a.m. Right. Okay.
Once a month.
All right. And so, any reports you have? Any reports?
No.
Okay, no? Okay. And wellness, Trustee Yancharos?
We meet the first Tuesday of the month at 5:30 p.m. before the board meeting. So that's an hour before the board meeting. Everyone is welcome. I have a few concerns. It seems like the food that we provide is always regulated by the federal government, and I'm not in so much agreement what they provide for us and the menu choices. So we're looking into healthier things than even the government provides. They don't like their food triangles and things.
Right. So basically, Mrs. Mondesir, what Trustee Jarosz is saying, and I've said actually, Mr. Silver can elaborate on that, is that there are a lot of regulations we find in everything that we try to do, a lot of bureaucracy, and the government actually has a lot to say in terms of what we serve, how we serve it, who we serve it to, and what the composition is. Mr. Silver, can you elaborate a little bit more on that for me? Because we know that we know the food choices that we have to give, and the breakfast and the lunch, and who we have to provide it to. Go ahead.
Sure. The federal government and the state governments provide us with millions of dollars in reimbursements. I don't know how to turn this on.
No problem.
So we are required to follow the regulations that they have. And they are many regulations. Mr. Jarosz is correct. It's hard to follow them. It's hard to put together a menu that is appetizing at the same time as meeting their requirements. But I'd like to say that there's three things that are different now. One is, well, not different, but one is we have to decide pretty soon whether we're going to renew Sodexo's contract for next year. So we may together decide that it's best for us to go out to bid to bring in another company. But I remind you that 2 of the 3 companies that are out there, we've thrown them out. And I also know that Sodexo does Lawrence Hospital, and they love them there. Like you were talking about Binghamton College. The second is we now have a new consultant, Sue Merrims, who we believe will help us with our quality, and we have our new food service director still getting her feet wet. And we are making changes, planning to do changes, and there's more oversight now that we have a full-time chef and other kitchen people so that our people can get out to the sites. So we would just ask the patience, we just need a little bit longer, but we may very well decide that we need to cut bait and go out and try to find a better company.
Sure. Yeah, and it's that balance between, even if we do get that other company, are they so restricted by all the regulations that it's hard for us to implement what we need? Because even in the distribution, you have to get breakfast to every classroom and every child by a certain time, and there's only certain types of foods that you could do that with so that they don't spoil, they can't sit out too long, they have to be refrigerated, they have to have milk. I know we have some challenges.
Sure, the breakfast has to be made the day before, delivered to the school the day before so that it's ready at 8 o'clock to be brought up to the classroom. And getting it to the classroom is difficult, cleaning up is difficult, getting the milk there is difficult, and not having the food be spoiled or wasted if it's not used is difficult. So there's a lot of problems with the breakfast program, probably more than the lunch program, but everything is a problem. But we're working on it all.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to deliver a gourmet meal with those restrictions. But, all right. Sure, please.
I'm aware of the government regulations, but I think those regulations are mere guidelines. We don't have to stick to the minimum that the government says we should accommodate. I have 5 coworkers who sit really close to me, and on the first of the month, we print out our kids' menus from all of the schools and we compare. And my menu always sucks.
Then I think you should be part of the wellness committee. Where have you?
We compare and
Sure.
we try to choose
Sure.
what days we're gonna let our kids eat. My son only eats on Fridays because Fridays is pizza. He loves pizza.
Right.
So every day he eats breakfast at home. He brings his lunch to school. So that's just my choice, but I know there are a lot of parents who
Not a
don't
problem.
do that. So I just think that because the government says this.
No, it's not just that. I mean, look, I push hard. I know Trustee Jarosz does as well. Mr. Silver does as well. We've been really challenged at finding solutions, but we're working on it. We're going to continue. But we would welcome actually your presence on the Wellness Committee. We have actually a pretty large group right now, and it's pretty active. And so we would like to bring you into the fold because as this morning, actually, Lorna Kirwan, the PTA president, joined us in our bond construction, facilities meeting at 7:30 this morning. Last night at the Trapphagen School, informational session, I welcome the community, the people who want to participate in the process as part of our transparency initiative here to join us. And she joined us 7:30 in the morning. And afterwards she said, wow, it's so easy to sit out there and kind of point fingers, what are you guys doing, what you're not doing. And then as she sat in this 3-hour meeting, she finally understood. She was like, wow, there are so many obstacles and so many things that you have to do in the planning of all these things. So just understand that it's the same thing here, but we would like for you to see it. And then you could jump off the committee. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be a commitment. You could just come to whatever is convenient for you, but at least you could participate then, not just a 3-minute say-so, and you could, bring your ideas and concerns. So I would welcome that. And menus. So Tuesday before the board meeting, just get here an hour before, so it's, if you can, we would really welcome that. Thank you. All right, and Trustee Saunders for the special education? Sure.
Yes.
Do you have an agenda? Sorry. Do you have an agenda already for your next meeting next week?
No, Douglas from Sodexo has printed out an agenda, or has made an agenda. And if you want to add anything to it, please just let me know. I'll let him know.
Yeah, I'd like to come, if that's okay, and make it kind of a policy meeting also because to discuss Mr. Silver's email and there's some recent changes in law affecting state guidelines on our policy. Yeah.
Super. All right. Excuse me. So just to be clear, this coming Tuesday is the first Tuesday. So it's this Tuesday. So that was a confusion for today.
Yes, because of the holiday and everything. But
Okay, no problem.
Once a month, unless we need to have an ad hoc committee.
Sure, not a problem. All right, super. Trustee Saunders.
The Special Education Advisory Council is going to have a meeting next Thursday at Rebecca Turner. The agenda for next Thursday will be whatever resources we have for children as far as after-school programs, if they're available, weekend programs. So we have a few vendors coming in to present next Thursday from 6 to 8 at Rebecca Turner.
Thank you. And your committee meets when?
We meet once a month on a Thursday. Sometimes it changes based on the holidays, but it's always on a Thursday.
Do we have a standing? Is it first, second, third Thursday? I'd like to get something
Maybe
standing.
the third Thursday, but
Third Thursday?
next week it's the second Thursday. It's the second Thursday? Second Thursday.
Okay, so could we make it the second Thursdays unless it changes?
Unless we have a holiday.
Right.
Unless there's a holiday, we'll usually meet, that's
Sure,
always
so
the
if it's a
change.
holiday, you meet the following Thursday?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the second Thursday unless you have a holiday?
Correct.
Okay, so there you have it.
It's on Ms. Saunders and I have worked on that.
So that's,
It's
okay,
it should be on the
fantastic.
website.
And so the facility subcommittee,
Thursday, or she said third Thursday, but they're meeting because of.
no, it's this Thursday, it's the third Thursday because, well, this-
No, it's going to be the second Thursday. It's next Thursday.
But generally it's what? It's always the second
the
Thursday?
second, unless there's a holiday or
Correct.
something, okay. All right, our subcommittee is a little easier. It is every Wednesday, this is facilities, it's every Wednesday at 8 a.m. and the location is the Office of the Senior Architect unless otherwise it changes, and sometimes it's here at the board. So that's facilities. And also, even though it is a packed room, I invite those members of the public who would like to see us work during the bond committee meetings, and that is 7:30 every Tuesday from 7:30 to 9:30 here at the district office in the boardroom. And if you would like to attend, I would advise that you just let the district clerk know, and so that we can make sure that we have enough room, because already most of the seats are taken, but I don't necessarily need like 15 people showing up inside the boardroom because there'd be nowhere for you to stand. But it would be every Tuesday, 7:30 in the morning. The other meeting, the facility meetings, there's only 4 of us there, so there's plenty of room, so pack it in. In terms of any committee reports, we've taken a little bit of a hiatus in terms of work that's actually being done and seen because of the winter and also because we ran out of money budget. So we're waiting for the next budget season and see what we have in terms of capital projects available this coming May when the budget hopefully passes. However, we are planning. So right now, every Wednesday, we do the planning stage in terms of trying to figure out what projects we would like to do with the hopes of having money for that amount of capital projects that we want to do. Let's see, regarding the bond, last night at the meeting, the informational meeting at Graham and the one at Trapphagen, I was there, and actually I spoke more at the one at Trapphagen because there were more questions regarding the bond there in terms of where we're at and what are we doing. The superintendent and the rest of the cabinet, and sometimes myself and other board members, have attended these informational sessions to let everyone in the community understand the modification that we have been making and what we've been making them for. So just for the record, I'm going to make it quite simple for everyone in this room and anyone who's watching. First and foremost is the academic restructuring of the district and providing for that. So what I mean by that is pre-K through 8 structure and then plus the 3 high schools. That's number one. So in order to do that, we had to modify the bond in order to create more space at some of our elementary schools to provide for the 7th and 8th grade classrooms, 7th and 8th grade science classrooms, and also at minimum 2 pre-K classrooms per elementary school. So therefore, we added a little bit more capacity at Pennington. We are going to bring Mandela to a elementary school status. We are also going to add some additional capacity at Grimes, and also if there's more funds available as we see what's coming in, add the additional capacity for pre-K space at Parker, at Cecil Parker. However, all elementary schools will have science capacity, science classrooms, 7th and 8th grade classrooms, and at least 2 pre-K classrooms. So at least the academic structure of the pre-K through 8 is achieved throughout the entire city. That is our number one priority. Everything else in terms of how beautiful the fields are and how wonderful other assets are, you know, maybe some auditoriums and some gymnasiums, that becomes secondary in terms of priority right now until we come a little bit closer to realizing what these actual bids are coming in at and seeing how much money we actually have. So that is really the modification. It's not that, you know, we said we're going to do one thing and now we're going to do something else. No. We're doing what we said we were going to do. We are going to give the community a new academic structure, which is a pre-K through 8 plus 3 high schools of excellence. And so in order for us to do that, we realized that, hey, we need more space at the elementary school levels in order to do that. And so that's how it came in. So the reason you have to re-vote is because we didn't tell you that we were going to make Mandela a elementary school. We didn't tell you that we were going to give you an additional annex at Grimes. And we didn't tell you that we may possibly also add additional capacity at with an addition over at Parker. And there, by law, we had to tell you that, and you had to vote on that and approve that. That's what that is all about. Now, sometimes people say, well, you're taking a lot of money away from the high school, you're taking money away from here, what are you doing? Well, something's got to give, right? And I started off with saying that the academic structure is the most important thing. So while you may see some money come off of some buildings and go back to some other buildings, doesn't mean that those buildings are not now being neglected. There's a lot of different sources of funds used to do projects. We have grants, we have capital projects, we have money from old bonds that we've been using. that were left over, new monies that we found that we didn't really use the maximum allowable, and that we were going back and using that. So the high school, for example, we have a new gymnasium. We have the money designated for the pool, and that's going to be fabulous. We have 6 new bathrooms. Or was it 8? 8 new bathrooms at the high school that we're doing. We just redid the loading dock and almost $1 million worth of sidewalks and other dangerous, hazardous situations. All new windows, heating system. So there's plenty being done. So don't mistake that, what you see in terms of the shifting of the numbers for, oh, they're not doing anything at these particular schools. All the schools will have the academic structure, and all the facilities will be rendered useful for the academic classes that we have in store. So I hope I'm clear with that. Superintendent, if you'd like to add on to that? No, that was pretty good? Okay, good. So next, Trustee Miller.
The next Family and Community Engagement meeting is March 31st at 8:30 a.m. We met this morning. Basically, our schedule has been a little erratic, so I recommend right now, because we're focusing on specific events and projects that are time sensitive, so we meet as often as we need to, and we pull in many different people depending on the nature of the meeting. So what I would recommend, until I can probably after April set a set date and time, I recommend joining the committee, and you will receive an email about when the next meeting is. But as of now, the next Family and Community Engagement meeting will be March 31st at 8:30 a.m. here, and the topic is going to be discussing the Mind, Body, and Soul event, which we are repeating from last year with a number of enhancements, that will be held on September 16th at the high school fields. The Budget Committee met on February 15th, and we reviewed the budget to date with Mr. Silver, and we do have a gap, and there are going to be some constraints. So as in all budgets, we're going to have to be, kind of giving and taking based on what we need to do to achieve the budget, and then the Budget Committee will make a recommendation as to what we should do. One of the things that we're concerned about is that the current administration in Washington and the current education secretary, there are concerns that there are going to be major cuts to the NEA and the NEH. And we have a tremendous number of positions here in the district that are funded through grants from those organizations. So we do have to be a little bit cautious. We don't want to start programs we can't continue. We have too much of a history of that in the past here. So we're going to have to be cautious in the budget just to make sure if these cuts are levied to some of our grant money that we can continue to serve the children as we have been. The event, our fundraising event for the Superintendent's Reading Challenge, you can find it on Facebook, and I guess we're sending out emails and invites, etc. The fundraiser is on Monday, March 13th at Barnes & Noble in Scarsdale, and we're also doing a book fair for all students in the district. We're even providing busing for them. That will happen on Saturday, March 11th. That entire weekend, a percentage of any purchases at the Barnes & Noble in Scarsdale, the new one, will come to our district to help support the students' Superintendent's Reading Challenge, which will be celebrated on June 8th. Our next meeting is just the event committee, and that is Friday at 2 p.m. at Barnes & Noble.
Is that in lieu of your standing meeting, or in
No,
addition?
that's just that's an event-specific meeting.
That's an event-specific meeting.
So the next standing meeting is March 31st. But there's book fair. We're encouraging everyone to come. We also came up with a special rate for district employees, so they got a little bit of a discount. You're not an employee. But we do hope that people will bring their children. It's going to be really exciting, and also the fundraiser is going to be really exciting. We have a special super celebrity guest, which we're going to start promoting in a few days. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Trustee
I am
McCollum?
well aware I'm not an employee of the district.
They told me loud and clear 75 was too much
Right.
money.
So the next policy committee meeting will be at the Wellness Committee meeting, and we'll discuss the current policy, which is pretty bare bones, and we'll discuss whether that needs to change or not. Maybe it doesn't. When we have meetings, they're typically on Friday mornings, particularly because that works well with the superintendent's schedule, and for most of the policy changes, when we do need to discuss them, it's good that the superintendent personally be there. We do not have a standing meeting because our committee is kind of more reactionary in dealing with issues as they arise, and when issues, for example, Mr. Silver wants to discuss the purchasing policy, so when you are ready to do that, I'm all ears. And again, sign up, and you'll be, I assume, Rick, is there a way for people to get email distribution announcements about specific committees? If a member of the public wants to, for example, know things that are going on in the policy committee, can they sign up for that somewhere? How would that work? Or any other committee?
Anything's possible.
Right.
It's just a matter of doing it and figuring out how to do it.
Sign up for the committee.
If you,
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. We can certainly, we have the capability, and this is the first we've talked about it, so.
So for example, since we're all talking about this anyway, right? So for example, on the FACE committee, the Family and Community Engagement, we have several members of the public who come regularly and actively participate. I only know that because I'm on the committee. I understand the Wellness Committee is the same way. So are those just separate email lists that you are maintaining? Who's maintaining those lists of people who have interest?
Generally me.
Okay. And so if a member of the public wanted to do that, do they sign up on the website? Do they email you?
Contact me directly.
Okay, so they contact you. Anybody who wants to get information about a committee, contact Rick. And his contact information is everywhere, and he repeats it at the beginning of every public comment section, because I put in the policy that he had to put his contact information verbally every time we do this. So yeah, I guess I just would encourage the community to know that signing up to be part of a committee doesn't necessarily mean that you need to, or that we expect you to attend in person every meeting, but it does enable you to be kept up to date about what's going on your specific committee, and that's by far the most efficient way of doing so. So if you have interest in a committee, even if the particular times that they meet might not work with your schedule, sign up anyway so that you're kept informed of your specific interests.
The other thing I might add then for your committee, Trustee McCollum, is that since you don't have a standing date, maybe what we'll do is any of those who are interested that signs up with Rick, when you do announce that that you'll have one, you'll let Rick know, and then Rick could maybe reach out or send that email to those people who
Right.
are interested.
I mean, typically what happens, right, if there's an issue going on in the district and our policy doesn't sync up with reality, or there's a change in law, or there's some other issue that requires us to make a change to the policy, then what happens is somebody in administration will contact the policy committee and say, hey, there's an issue, we need to talk about it, and then we will talk about it with that specific group of people, and then we will make a recommendation to the full board for a policy change. And when we do policy recommendations, the public always has, per our policy, at least twice they hear that new policy before we vote on it. And that is the appropriate time for anybody to react and give us comments or feedback, and that's why we have the two readings so that the public has a chance to hear what we're thinking about changing. And I mean, we had a first reading of one policy, and I'm still waiting on the president to get me back with his comments. So this is a live process, and it's one that the public is certainly always, has the right to be a part of, and that's why we do it the way we do it. Or we don't just, we don't just spring a brand new policy out of nowhere with no time for the public
Sure.
to think about it or react.
So maybe what we'll do on the website is that for that particular committee, we will have, please contact board clerk for more info.
That's fine.
Yeah? Instead of like a to be determined or something like that.
That's-
So there's a
that's
little bit
fine.
more specific information.
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. And Dr. Ning,
The education.
the education is all wrapped up. We know.
May I just say one more thing?
Sure.
On the district website, each page of the website on the top right-hand side has a thing that says RSS. That's an RSS feed. So if there's a particular part of the website that you're interested in, if you subscribe to that RSS feed, you'll get automatic updates from the district as soon as something gets updated on that portion of the website. So on the calendar page, for example, there's an RSS feed. So if you click on there and you click subscribe, anytime something gets added to the calendar, if a meeting date gets changed, if if the location changes, that update will be pushed to you automatically through the RSS feed. So that feature is out there.
Okay. All right, super. All right, then now any minutes to,
Yep. February 7th. I lost my board docs.
okay.
Where's board docs? Oh, where'd it go? Oh, here we go, sorry. Motion to accept the February 7th minutes.
Motion.
Second.
Trustee Jaros. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
Trustee Miller abstains. Motion carries.
All right. Well, at this time, we will be making a motion to enter into executive session. So I want to just thank the members of the public for your comments and for appearing tonight. It's always great to see many members of the community come here to the Board of Education to hear updates and to voice your concerns. We will be coming out of the session
40 minutes.
in about 40 minutes to vote on the resolutions. So if you would like to be part of that to see us vote on the resolutions, you may. However, there's nothing else substantive following that. But thank you so much. And now I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
I'm sorry, the executive session for the purposes of discussing matters related to collective bargaining negotiations with the Mount Vernon Federation of Teachers, the employment history of a particular person or persons, and contractual negotiations with a third-party vendor.
Thank you. Thank you. Turn to our regular meeting. Motion. Second. Do I have a second to return to?
Second.
Thank you.
Trustee Miller. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Dr. Mingo?
No, he's coming back. Where is he?
Oh.
He's coming.
Oh, he's on the phone call. And Trustee Fearon, you want to put her into the, you have her in? Okay, super.
She was first paper. You don't have your phone?
No, it's in the other room.
Just want to vote on it.
Okay. No, I don't think so, but we'll give an
We
opportunity
had
right
those,
now.
yes, sort of.
Okay, so we're about to go into item 6.0, a consent agenda. Any trustees would like anything to be removed from the consent agenda? Anyone? No? Okay.
Was he a cleaner?
Which one?
Was he a cleaner?
No.
We're contemplating something?
Oh, we didn't.
Yeah, you
Okay.
did that.
I read it in your confidential.
Okay.
Okay.
right, we're
do
good?
I fix never mind.
We're
Which
good?
one? Wait, Charmaine?
Fix the
Oh,
resolution
I'm good.
8.1?
Yes, the price will be changed to 18.5.
Okay, good. Sorry, thank you.
Oh, for consistency, right?
Okay, so make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Jaros, all of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? All right, and any noes? No, period. Passes, and I believe that we're going to go into new business. No? Any old business? Rick, anything else? Does that conclude our meeting? That concludes our meeting. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Have a great evening. Motion to conclude.
Motion.
Second.
Trustee McCollum?
Second, Trustee Saunders. Thank you so much. This is yours, or Rick's, or
Rick, you want to hang it?
You wanna hang it?